Welcome to the Healing While Discovering Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Michelle. I'm an intuitive transformational coach, certified life coach, certified NLP practitioner, and speaker. I've spent the last 22 plus years helping myself and my clients learn how to create their own happiness and live more abundant lives. In this time, I've also overcome and healed from child sexual molestation, a compulsive eating disorder, hunger, and homelessness. Now it's your turn to move forward with your life and heal from childhood traumas or past experiences. In this podcast, I'll share how I was able to overcome all of my past struggles, as well as my personal stories of overcoming jealousy, loneliness, resentment, and bitterness, and how I learned to forgive. I'll also help you explore your shadow self, deal with having low or no self-esteem, and address feelings of not being worthy or loved. Using my personal experiences and extensive training, as well as stories of grief, loss, depression, and anxiety from my guests, I'll help you change your life and finally heal. Hey, loves. Welcome back to the Healing While Discovering Yourself podcast. I am so excited that you are here because I know that you have options. You can listen to a bunch of people. And the fact that you choose to listen to this podcast just really humbles me. And I'm so extremely grateful for your presence. So thank you for being here. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, then I am going to ask you to go back, listen to some of the other episodes before you judge. Okay. Anyway, now that all that's out the way, I am so excited because we have a guest on the podcast. And that's one of the things that I said I wanted to do differently with this podcast than the last one, is really invite more people to share their experiences so that the listeners, so that y'all will know that I'm not just talking from my experience, that other people also have experiences. So with us today, we have Katie, who is the founder and CEO of Authentic Intuition. And so, hey, Katie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So tell us about you, whatever it is that you think we should know. Who are you? What do you do? All of that good stuff.
Well, okay. So I am a mom. I have 2 boys. I'm married. I live my life flying by the seat of my pants with all the testosterone in this house. In my daily life, I work as a CODA, which is a certified occupational therapy assistant. And I actually work with little kids in the school setting. And so, I help them work on like their function, we do work on graphs because it's school and handwriting and those things, but we like to have fun and play games and things like that. So that's what I do during the day. And then I also will coach people through Authentic Intuition. I kind of started out doing card readings, but my real passion is, helping people find clarity in their life, move past limiting beliefs, really find what's blocking them in life from being their most authentic self. And that's kind of where my journey started last year, really kind of stepping into who I am, realizing what my purpose was, and really figuring out how I can plug in and help people and live my purpose and be my authentic self. And so I want to help everyone else be their authentic self as well.
So you mean to tell me that you want to help people be their authentic self, but how did you get to this point? Did you just wake up and you're like, I know my purpose? Or did you know that all your life? Like what is your story?
Yeah. So actually I did not know my purpose. I think I spent...
Obviously I knew that. I was just...
Yeah. I think that is something everyone searches for. Like, why are we here? And that was one of the things that I think plagued me for the longest time. I will say I've always felt like an old soul.
Mhm.
I grew up in a small southern town. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it, but it's Sikeston, Missouri, in the
It's
boot
where?
heel. Sikeston, Missouri, in the boot heel now.
Okay.
I did used to talk like that.
That's so
I used to have a southern accent, but I got rid of it because I was like, I don't want to talk like that anymore.
I love how you just did that though.
Yeah. Oh, it comes back when I go home. Like if I go home or talk
Yep.
to my family, it comes right back.
Yep.
So I grew up in this really small town. I come from, a Southern Baptist family, which I don't normally tell people because that tends to scare them. We were not the crazy ones like in Texas.
Like with the snakes and drinking poison and all
yeah,
that?
No. We were very normal.
Okay.
So, I grew up in the church my whole life. My dad is a music minister, ordained minister, grew up in the church my whole life, always did the right thing because it was the right thing to do. Well, maybe not always did the right thing, but, obviously like I had morals and ethics and all those things. And then I don't know, there was a point where, because I've dealt with trauma growing up, it was like teenage years. I started with the rebellious a little bit. Yeah. And then, so because of all the trauma that I had gone through as a child and not even, not dealing with it, no one to say, hey, like, how do you feel about this? Like no one was checking on my feelings. And so I think I bottled that up for so long. And then probably from about 15 to, oh my gosh, let's say probably like 25, I had really self-destructive behavior. Like I was just trying to find myself. Like what is my purpose in this life? Because leading up to, 15, 16, I had been doing all the right things. I had been going to church, doing what I was told, and it wasn't getting me anywhere. And I was like, it wasn't getting me anywhere. And like, I still felt like I would look at other people. I'm like, how do you get away with that? Like, how do you do those things and get away with that? And like, no one cares because if I did that, like it would be a Broadway production about how I did these things. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. It was like, I was held to this higher standard than everyone else. And part of that was me. Part of that was me holding myself to that higher standard and putting all that pressure on myself. And then the other part of it was obviously caring about what other people thought, and making that more important than discovering, really who I am and what's important to me. And so really, I would say, about 15, 16 to about 24, 25, I had extremely self-destructive behavior. And I don't think I need to go into all the details about that.
And that added to the trauma, your childhood trauma, right? It's like you got childhood
layered
trauma,
on top,
unhealed trauma.
Right.
And then here you are 15, 16 or whatever, and even beyond, but not knowing anything because it's still unhealed trauma. You're just adding on more trauma to the unhealed trauma.
Right. Because no one taught me that I needed to deal with my trauma. It was, in fact, my family, there was a saying growing up, suck it up, kid. Like, my grandfather was military. My uncles were military.
And that's so dangerous. It's so dangerous.
It really is. Yeah. Suck it up, kid. Like you're not bleeding. You're fine. Move on. And it was so stuff. And then naturally you're looking to alcohol. You're looking to smoking. You're looking to drugs to fill that void. Because obviously I'd grown up in the church. I had God in my life 100%. Okay.
Yes.
God was in me. The Holy Spirit was in me. I've been a Christian since I was like 5.
Right.
I fully believe in God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, all the things. Okay. Yeah. But obviously something wasn't right. And no one was there to help guide me. And so because I was like, I've been praying and praying and praying and nothing is helping the hurt. Nothing is helping the pain.
Not even the prayers, y'all. Listen to what she's saying.
Yes.
Because, you know, when something happens,
the prayers.
Yeah, everybody's like, oh, thoughts and prayers, and I'm going to pray. It's like, okay, but what are you going to do? I just want to throw that out there from your lips and your experience. Like you said, you were praying and nothing was happening.
Yeah. And I think too, like, people need to understand that obviously I believe God is real, and I believe God is with us and in us. And I believe we are connected divinely to him.
Yeah.
But God is not going to come down and be like, okay, let me fix all this, because we have free will.
Yes. Yes.
We have free will on this earth as humans.
Yep.
We are living a journey.
Yes.
As humans, we are living a human experience.
Yes.
We have free will. And when we make choices, whether they're good or bad, they have consequences.
Yep.
And unfortunately, when our parents make choices, good or bad, we have consequences.
Yep.
I think it was Will Smith. I was listening to him talk because I just love him. He's amazing. I was listening to him talk, and he said something really profound. He said, it is not your fault that your father was an alcoholic, but it is absolutely your responsibility to fix the trauma that you had from your father being an alcoholic. And I was like, oh my God, like it was a light bulb that went off in my head that said, even though God is with me, it doesn't mean I can just automatic. Like, you have to help yourself.
Yes.
You have to help yourself, and you have to dig in and do the work in order to fix the trauma. And so my journey to fixing myself, healing myself, really began, I would say, about when my son was 5. So I would have been, oh my gosh, I don't know how old I would have been. It was like 8 years ago. I don't even know how old I am right now. I'd have to look at the, like, so funny. Take the year.
Age is relative.
And I think it's so funny because I feel like I've lived such a long life. And I think it's because of some of the trauma that I've endured as a child and growing up.
Yes.
By the time you get to actual adulthood, you're like, oh, haven't I been here my whole life?
Oh my gosh. I get so excited every year. I turned 41 last year. I'll be 42 this year. And I get so excited because I'm like, finally, like I'm in my 40s. Like when I hit 30, I'm like, finally, I'm in my 30s because I felt like I was 30 years old 15 years ago. Yes. It's like, now that I'm 41, I'm like, yeah. So, okay. The age is starting to come up with the experience. Okay. Okay.
That's exactly how I feel. I think when I was turning 30, like all my friends were like, oh my God, I'm 30. I was like, I'm excited because I'm done with my 20s. I'm all done with that nonsense. Like, let's move on. I was excited to get into my 30s. I was like, please let me.
Yes.
Let me get there.
Yes.
Because Lord knows some of the stupid choices I've made. I shouldn't even be sitting here talking to you, but I am because that is, I have a purpose. And, that was really, really the key thing to healing myself was I'm obviously here for something.
Yes.
Because when I think back on those times of being a teenager and making those stupid choices, I'm like, I don't know how I'm alive. Like, how am I even here?
I gotta stop because, if we learn, this is my fundamental belief. I believe that if we learn a lesson from a choice, right, from something that we did, then to me, I don't think that choice or that decision was bad or was stupid or whatever, if we learned a lesson from it. And not only that, we have to understand that you were making decisions through the lens of trauma, right? So at the time, these weren't stupid decisions. At the time, they made sense to you. Yes. Did you feel like maybe I shouldn't a little bit? Yes. Right. Because we all have this gauge of, how we're feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, and all of that. But at the same time, you did the best you could with the information you had at the time.
Right. Right. Well, and I mean more along the lines of like how I didn't get myself killed mainly, but absolutely. That reminds me of that, like, Maya Angelou quote, when you know better, do better.
Yes.
Like,
exactly.
And I think that was another healing point for me too, kind of realizing, like, looking at my parents, like I was so mad at them for so long.
Yeah.
They divorced when I was 6 and I was so angry for so long. And then, growing up, now that I'm a parent, now that I'm married, I realize I'm like, God, my parents were doing the best they could with what they had.
Yes.
And I think of it like we all have a toolbox. So you think about like when you're fixing things around the house, we all have a toolbox.
Yes.
If you don't have the tools to fix XYZ, you got to be resourceful and do the best you can with what you have.
Yes.
And so that was something I kind of carried with me too, like throughout my healing, starting my journey, because I was at rock bottom. I was depressed. I didn't care if I lived or died. And what's sad is, I had my little guy and I loved him to death. And that was the hardest part. It was like, I feel like I'm just existing for him.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel whole. And I just feel so tired and so defeated and just at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was drinking like a bottle of wine a night.
Wow.
To numb the pain.
Right.
And finally, I was like, I don't know what it was. It was just all of a sudden I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing with my life? And so I had been to therapy.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but I think
no, you're fine.
This is a really valid point because you said, you felt like you were existing for him, but that wasn't enough. But it just goes to show that we can't use, especially as women, because women do this more than men do, but we can't use our children as our crutch. We can't use them like, I'm all for marriage, but I'm not the person who says, oh, you have to stay married for the children. Yeah, you can't use your children as a reason to exist. You can't use them as a reason to do anything. That really, truly does. It starts with you filling your cup first. And before I used to say, fill your cup first so you can pour into others. But now I'm at a point in my life where I believe that you shouldn't even pour from your cup. You should pour from the overflow of your cup to make sure that you are always full, because no one can complete you if you don't feel complete by yourself.
Right. And I think a lot of people deal with that. They're always looking for something to complete them. And really, it's internal. It is so internal, and nothing and no one, not even your kids, are going to fill that spot. Because really, I feel like when you're a parent, you can't even be there for your kids when you feel the way you do. Like, I couldn't be there for my son, even though I was existing and I'm like going through the motions, taking him to school.
And you loved him.
I loved him. Absolutely. Unconditionally. Like, I would give my life for my children. Right. But it didn't change how I was feeling inside, because they can't, first of all, it's not their job.
Right.
They're not here your children don't come into this world to fix you.
No, they don't.
And it's not their job to fix you, and it's not their job to make you whole. And so, I mean, that's kind of the other thing, like, I learned, and it's like, really, children are like small adults. Yes. And I've always talked to my kids like they're adults.
Me too.
And like, I know it's so weird. I'm like, well, that was a sad choice that you made. I feel like, maybe you have to make a different one. Like, I've always talked to my kids like that, because I think it's important for them to know, like, it's them. They are the person that is going to determine how their life turns out.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing, because I was in victimhood for the longest time.
Don't even go there, girl. Don't even go there.
It's like trauma equals victimhood.
Yes. Yes.
And I was always pointing the finger at someone else to blame for how I was feeling. Well, my parents divorced when I was 6. Well, I've been mentally, emotionally, verbally, and physically abused my entire life. And so that's to blame. And when you play the blame game, you're just stripping your power from yourself. You're stripping your power. You are never going to heal because you're always blaming someone else. And that was the biggest thing. I finally, when I was at the bottom of the barrel, rock bottom, like when it started, I was like, I'm so negative. I'm so miserable. Like, I was like, I don't feel like myself. I feel like a different person. I feel like I'm living someone else's life. And I had been to therapy a couple times, and kind of dealt with some things. And I really was like, I didn't have the money to go back to therapy. And I was like, I got to do something. I have to do something to make myself feel better. So I started journaling, started a journaling practice. And that slowly turned into a gratitude practice because I happened to listen to a video on YouTube. And that was something else I did. I just started listening to like positive music. Anything and everything on YouTube that I could find that was positive and uplifting, starting with Oprah, because Oprah, I mean, that's all you need to say. She actually got me started doing the gratitude because Oprah, I watched a video she did and she goes, if you have nothing to be grateful for but the breath in your lungs, the air that you are breathing, it's something. She goes, there may be a day when that's all you have to be grateful for, but be grateful, acknowledge it, write it down, whatever you got to do. And so that kind of started my journey of healing. And the journaling was so good. Like, journaling your thoughts and your feelings gets them out of your body so that you don't have to like battle that all day long. And then I started shifting my focus to things that were more positive, to really the things I had to be grateful for. I had a beautiful son. I had a roof over my head, which is more than some people can say. I had running water. I could go to my fridge and get water out of the filter. Like, come on, And I just putting things in perspective for myself, not minimizing what I had been through, not minimizing my actual pain, but just realizing like, even through all this pain, I still had many, many blessings, and I had things that other people didn't have. And so maybe I didn't have the support through my family that I thought I should have. So it was like, well, I got to find support. I got to find support because these people, while I love them, they're my family and they're here, they're not supporting me. But I got to find someone who can and who can help lift me up. And there are, tons of communities out there.
But I think what's important to note is that you started supporting yourself first. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's the thing about the healing and self-discovery journey. It really does start with you. You can't expect for anyone to support you, family or not, if you are not at least holding the space for yourself so that when you show up, wherever it is you show up, looking for, desiring support, people will be able to see, oh, okay, she's done the work. He's done the work. They've done the work. And it's going to be a situation of true support where there's reciprocity and not where it's like, oh my gosh, now I'm constantly pouring into you, pouring into you. It's like, no, you decided, you made a decision you took responsibility for your life and you began to support yourself. And then once you do that, it's so much easier to find a supportive community because we attract whatever it is that we put out there. Right. And it's so if you're putting out supportive energy, then of course you're going to attract a supportive community.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, because if I hadn't started on my own, no one was going to be around me. No one would want to be around me because I was miserable and I was not a fun person to be around then. And normally I feel like I am a fun, laid back person, but then I was not. And so, it was a long, hard road up. And it was almost like climbing up a well.
But would you change it?
No, because I feel like it really shaped me into who I am. Mm-hmm. And also it helped me find the person I'm supposed to be. And that was really like, when I say rock bottom and like in the depths of despair, like it felt like I was in a pit. Wow. And it felt like I was in or a well, you know what I mean? Like at the bottom, and I'm like screaming at the top.
Yes.
And no one is coming to my rescue.
Nobody's coming to save you. You got to save yourself.
Yep. No one's coming to save me. And I'm like, okay, I got to pull up my big girl panties and I got to figure out how I'm going to get out of this because I'm tired of being down here. It's dark. It's horrible. It's cold. And I want out. So that was kind of like the beginning, but it took time. Like it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And really each step is necessary.
Yes.
Because you learn back to the toolbox. You pick up tools along the way to help you with the issues when they resurface.
Yes.
And honestly, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know for a fact that trauma can be completely erased and healed altogether, because I think it really gets ingrained on a molecular level of who you are.
Well, there's a study called epigenetics where it shows that you can change the structure, the genes and DNA. So it is possible to break the curses and not pass on the same like generational and intergenerational trauma. And it is possible to heal from it. Because I know I've healed from a lot of trauma in my life, and I don't feel the residual effects of it. Of course, at first I did, but I worked through those things, changing habits and switch some things around. And I know that there have been generational curses that I have broken. And not only that, but not just break the generational curse, but start the chain of generational blessings.
Right. But you've healed it, but the story and the effect that it had on you is still there. You're just not triggered by it every day, right?
Well, no, I'm no longer affected by it. I'm no longer affected by so I was molested at 8 years old. Do I have the memory of it? Yes. But am I affected by it today? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, the person who molested me is a family member. We're still in contact. And I love this person with all of my heart. And I hold absolutely nothing, Katie. And when I say nothing, I hold nothing against them. And I can recall that situation and not feel like a victim, not feel threatened. Although I was victimized. I want to make that clear. There's a difference in being victimized and victimhood and playing the victim. You know what I mean? So was I victimized? Yes. But do I live in victimhood from that? No, because I have completely healed from that. It no longer has a hold on me. I'm not impacted by it whatsoever. When I see this person, it's true love, and there's nothing that's there. So it is possible.
Right. The thing is, abuse people.
Yeah.
Hurt people. Yeah. But
also healed people heal people. That is my thing. And that's what I've been saying is
absolutely
what we need to get to a place where instead of, like the default is hurt people, where it's disempowering, we move to this place of healed people, heal people. Right. And it's like the reason why I do the work that I do is because I'm a healed person. And so my desire is to see everybody healed. And that's why I show up, that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why I show up live on Facebook and Instagram, and I give for free because I'm a healed person. And I feel like everybody should know what it's like to experience healing. And I get that not everyone can invest in my programs, and that's okay, but that shouldn't be a barrier to someone doing their own healing. Right. And so I agree. And my story is not the typical story where this happens and then you invite that person back in your life. And I understand that. I get that 100%. And I'm not advocating, and I'm not saying that, if someone does this to you, you should let them back in your life. I am big on saying, if they hurt you, you can disassociate from them, whether they are family or not. And you can forgive them and not ever say anything else to them. Like, to me, those two, like, it's all possible. It depends on where you are in your journey and what your purpose is. That's all. So it's not that one is better than the other, one is right, one is wrong. It just simply is what it is, because everybody lives a different experience.
Right. Well, and I think too, like if it's hurting you to have them around, then that's not going to help you. Like you have to finish healing all of that. And then maybe one day you can, maybe you won't. Like, it really is neither here nor there, but I've had to do that. I mean, I did that with my dad. My dad hurt me as an adult too, like just emotionally and mentally. And so for a while, I didn't talk to him, but now we talk, and it's like, we just needed that time away from each other. Sometimes you just need a break from people. Even if they're your family, like that. And that's the hard part.
So I want to talk about, because you mentioned that, you grew up in the church, your whole life and, religion and, you had your experience where you wanted to go deeper. And then in the last year, you said you started, with like this down the spirituality route. And all of that. Like, what was the bridge for you? What was the bridge for you to go from like where you were to make the decision to say, you know what, spirituality, I think, is going to be beneficial? Because I walked away from organized religion. It started for me back in 2016 actually it started before that, about 2014, 2015, where organized religion, I was a Christian, I still believe in the teachings of Jesus. I believe in God, the Holy Spirit. I also believe in the teachings of Buddha and all of that. But I made the public declaration, I think it was last year. And the reason why I made the declaration public was because that was when I had really, truly healed, from the trauma of religion and its impacts. And so for, 4 or 5 years, like it was a healing process, to the point of healing takes time, and while I was healing from that, I had already like started to expand my horizon. Like, wait a minute, God is not just a God of Christian people. God is not just a God of America. Like, who would even want to serve a God who's, how can we say that God is so great and so big, yet he's only the God to America, yet he's only the God to Christians? And how can we say that of all the billions of people in the world, that if someone doesn't say that Jesus Christ is my savior, that this loving God who we proclaim is going to send them to burn in hell, right? So these were greater questions that I had, that I went out to seek answers for. And so now I find my home in my practices, in my practice of meditation, in my practice of, learning more about Jesus and learning about Buddha and learning about Muhammad and learning about Confucius and learning about Krishna and learning about the ascended masters and the archangels and ancestors and, even past lives and all of that. I find that this is my place of peace and it works for me. But I said all of that because I just want to hear like your experience, that bridge from, religion. And then it's like, whoa, this is something's got to change.
So, I mean, it started for me a while back too. Like I said, I grew up in the church. I mean, and when I say I grew up in the church, my dad is an ordained minister. My uncle was my youth pastor. I was in church Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and Wednesday night every week. Okay. So that's what I mean when I say I grew up in the church. We were there all the time.
Yes.
Potlucks and all.
Yes.
Because, us Baptists, we like our potlucks. And so I think the turning point for me was I moved up here. I live in St. Louis, like around St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
And I moved up here when I was like 18, 19. I started going to, my dad was a music minister. So I was going to the church. He was going to. And I loved the pastor. That pastor actually performed the ceremony, my wedding ceremony. Loved him. He's amazing. But they had an associate pastor there. And he had my dad and Paul, who was the pastor. I don't know why I said his name. It doesn't really matter. He had them ordain him. So they did his ordination. And then this associate pastor basically pushed the pastor out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like making it like he wasn't and I'm talking
in
like
the church, in the church,
hateful. And I could just tell, like, when I meet people, because I'm an empath, I pick up on energies, and I could tell you with the moment I met him, I was like, there's something about you I don't like. Something is rubbing me the wrong way. Okay. Like I just was like, no. And I didn't and that was at like 19. I didn't really realize I was an empath. Like I knew I could feel things, and I always had that. That was the other thing that I'll talk about that too. I had always had that about me where I could like feel people's energies, and I was like, ooh, like I feel off. So anyway, that really did a number on me. I was like, I'm not going back to that church if he's the one preaching, because I'm not going to listen to a word he says. Okay. And that was the thing. Like after that, I just started noticing even the people in my life that I grew up with in the church, hateful comments.
Yes.
And it's even currently in regards to Black Lives Matter, in regards to people at the border, in regard, like all of these hateful things. And I'm like, it literally broke my heart because I was like, how can you claim to love God when you hate his people?
Yes. Yeah.
Because are we not all children of God?
Right.
Did God not create every single one of us in his image, according to the teachings in the Bible?
Right.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
In Matthew 3:16, it says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. Like I'm missing I literally was like, am I going crazy? Did I take crazy pills? Like, am I the one that's not getting it? Like, what is happening around me? Like, it just was this poof. Like, it was almost like the veil was lifted.
Yeah.
And I was like, what just happened? Because I'm looking at these people thinking, what?
Right.
Are you on glue? Like, I'm pretty sure God said, love everyone. Like, isn't that what it says? Do you know what I'm saying? And so it was just this, like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to go to a church where people behave the way that they're behaving.
Right.
Where they are discriminatory, where they are hateful to people coming in. And I actually watched this video that was so good. This pastor was talking, and he had passed around this rose. You know, he was like, take this rose, feel it, whatever. And he started telling a story about a young woman who, you know, obviously had sex before she was married with multiple people. And then he got the rose back, and obviously it was all kind of torn up because it had been passed around to all these people. And he goes, and who would want this? And he was like, God does. Yeah. God wants the rose. And it was like, that is the God I serve. Yes. The God that loves and nurtures and wants everyone to be a part of his kingdom, not just this group over here or this group over here. And I'm like, people want to put God in a box. Yes. And how can you put God in a box? If God is God of all things, how are you going to determine what he meant by XYZ and put him in I can't. Right. I just can't. And truthfully, like, I don't know, there's just something like in me that I truly believe there is more to the story than what we have been told our whole lives.
Oh gosh. Yes, for sure.
We were not there. And I think that a lot of things were hidden and thrown out to fit the agenda of the Roman Catholic Church. And that's just my personal belief. Yeah. And I grew up in, like I said, I grew up in the church. I grew up reading my Bible. I grew up with all of these things. Yeah. But as an adult looking at it from a different perspective, I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me anymore.
And would you say that, because I know for me, like really taking God out of the box of religion, that my healing, the growth happened like exponentially. It's like I spent all of these years praying, God, help me, still doing the work and examining myself, exploring myself and doing all that. But the minute I decided that, wait a minute, God is like universe, God is source, this infinite power, this infinite being, this limitless being, like God is. And I don't even think that God is a he. I think we call it he for our
I don't think God has a gender either.
Right. Because if the creator created male and female,
in
then
his
that
image,
means that male and female existed in the creation, because you can't create what is not from a place that's not in you. So I do say like God being he only from a human perspective, but I don't fundamentally believe that God is a he. And so,
and our culture is built on patriarchy. So ultimately we use he, but maybe we should change that. Let's just say she.
Yeah. Well, I mean, or it, you know what I mean? Or just source, universe, right? Because source is it. It is all things. And and so I think that for me, taking God out of the box, like it accelerated my healing process. Would you say the same for you?
Absolutely. And like this past year, COVID, 2020, lovely 2020. I was working at a job because I wanted to use my degree as a coda. And so I got this job and it was good. Like the job itself was good, but my boss was terrible. The environment I was working in was terrible. I was working over 40 hours a week. I was exhausted. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I was like, how did I even get that? I'm like, what do you mean? What? Fibromyalgia? Like, are you kidding me? Like because I was exhausted all the time. I was like in physical pain. And I was like, why am I hurting? Like, I don't understand this. And so actually, I'm a really horrible patient. And when the doctor was like, oh yeah, you have fibromyalgia, I was like, okay, well, how do I make it go away? And she's like, oh, you can't. It's like, you have it forever. And I was like, that's not going to work for me. We need it to go. But unfortunately, I do still have it. It is with me. I've just learned to like manage it, and I do take medication. But once COVID hit, my husband has he's had very high risk. I was miserable at this job, and I was like, this is my out. This is my out, because I got to go. And I was like, I left that job. And so literally I was home, locked in my house with my people. And I was like, I was tired, I was tired from the grind. And finally I was like, I've got to do something for myself, because I got to figure out what I'm doing with my life. And so that is when like my spiritual journey kind of started, because I was like, I journaled every day. I still talk to God. I still read my Bible, but I felt like there was more. I was like, there's more to life than what I have been living. There's more. There has to be more. Because if there's not, I feel like we're already living in hell.
Right.
If there's not more, then is this purgatory or hell? Tell me. Because like,
somebody tell me.
Somebody help me. So that was like the beginning, of my spiritual journey. And I found Emily and you, and like, I started like listening to things, and I really started asking those questions. Like, what if there's more to the story? What if the crucifixion and the Bible and the things that we've been told our whole life, what if that's not it? Not it as in like, I still believe that's it, but what if that is not all of it?
Exactly.
What if there's more? What if, and then like my brain starts going and turning. And I'm like, what if God really is in every religion?
Exactly.
I sit here and I think, if I was God and I wanted to be in everyone's life, I'd find some way into every single religion.
Exactly.
Wouldn't you? Like, it wouldn't just be, oh, well, it's this way or no way. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense, because God is loving. God is
not
love.
only that, but there's a scripture in the Bible, for people who are Christians who find that hard to believe. But he said, God is no respecter of person. that means that he has no respect for, or he's not partial to this particular group over another particular group, not even the Jews, which is what we practice or preach here. And this is nothing against the Jews or anything like that. But this is what the Bible says in the New Testament, that he doesn't have respecter of gender or person. Like, that means nothing to God. And so I 100% agree that God is in everything, because if he is this loving God, then how can we say that he's going to love the Christians and hate the Jews, or love the Jews and
that
hate the Muslims?
Like,
that's no.
It doesn't make sense, because I mean, Christianity has come a long way from when it first started, but I'm sitting here like, okay, how are we over here in America going to say, oh, well, you're Jewish, so you're not going to. Jesus was a Jew.
Right.
Y'all, I hate to break it to you, but Jesus was not white. He was not a white man. No. He was a Middle Eastern man. Like, that's what, and it blows my mind. And so, like, I always see pictures of Jesus and I was like, that's not him.
Yeah.
That's not Jesus. Like, that is white man Jesus. And he was not white. Like, so that really, like, that's the other thing that kind of got me too. Cause I was like, you proclaim to love Jesus.
Yeah.
But you have to understand where he came from, the time that he entered into, the time when he was born. And like, that was a different time than now. I guarantee you what we do today in his name, he ain't happy with. Because I look at it and I'm like, if you are not being kind and loving and caring and compassionate, how on earth can you proclaim to follow his teachings?
Yeah. And, you know, and I'm just gonna say this, because, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, because we're going to be, you know, ending soon. I just out of respect of time. But, you know, for me as a Black woman, I've experienced more racism from Christians than anyone else. And again, that was a part of my whole healing journey from healing from the religious trauma, is like, wait a minute, like, dude, that's like not right. So before we go, let me ask you this. If there was only one thing you wanted people to walk away from this interview with, as it relates to healing and still moving forward at the same time, and respecting that the healing process and healing your trauma does take time, what would you want them to walk away with?
I think the biggest thing for me is you're not alone. You're not alone in your trauma. You're not alone in the healing. Yes, it starts with you. You have to start the process, but there are other people who are going through this with you. And even if your trauma is different from mine or different from yours, someone can still help you get an outside perspective.
Yes.
You know, and that, I feel like, with my spiritual journey that started this last year, and with my healing journey that I've been on for years, that I'm going to be on for years to come, because we're always evolving and growing and healing. And I think that is, we have to.
Yes.
It's the journey.
Yes.
If you view life as, I got to get to the end of the race, you're missing the whole point.
Oof, yes.
You are missing the point of life. When I found out my purpose was to spread light and love, I was like, of course it is.
Right.
Why didn't I know that? Because that is source. That is from source. Light and love, kindness, compassion, generosity. That is from source. That is what we're here to do. Yeah. It doesn't matter about your career. It doesn't matter what you do to make a living. That's to make a living. Yeah. What are you doing in your daily life to help others so that you can help yourself? Yeah. Because I truly believe I gain things when I help others. Like 100%. That fills me up.
Yes.
And I think it was Brene Brown. She said, okay, you get to the end, then what? You die?
Right.
Like, why would you want to get to the end?
Right.
Life is about the journey, and really the trauma that we endure, it's such a small part of it. Yes, it's terrible, but the healing is so, so wonderful.
Yes.
And when you finally get to that place of like, I can breathe and I know this is going to be okay, then you can start embarking and growing and learning other things. And so just know that you're not alone. There is someone out there that can help you.
Yeah.
And there are people that can help you find the people that can help you. Like,
yes,
maybe it's not Andrea, maybe it's not me. Like,
right.
But we might know someone that is your person that can kind of lead you on the path you need to go. And I think really like that's the other thing. We're all connected.
Yes, we are.
We're all connected through source. Mm-hmm. And I think the sooner that people realize that, our world will change dramatically.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And again, I just want to thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Absolutely.
And sharing your story. Because again, it's like I said in the beginning, it's important for people, not just to hear me talk about like the healing journey and sharing that it's possible to heal and move forward, but also to see that other people are doing it. And the more people that we can show who are doing it, then I think it inspires and gives people hope to know that they can do it too. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It was so nice talking to you. And I just hope that there are some little nuggets in here that people take away and it starts them on their own journey.
Yes, there definitely are some nuggets. So if you have enjoyed this episode of the podcast, I would love for you to share it with someone who you think can benefit from it also. And then if you have not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you subscribe to it. Make sure you rate it. Make sure you review it. Just like do all the things so that we can help more people. Because remember, healed people heal people. And before I go, I want you to know that the love in me salutes the love in you.
Hey loves, are you looking for a safe place to hang out while you're healing with other like-minded individuals? If so, then I would love for you to join my private Facebook community called Healing While Discovering Yourself, named after the podcast. This community is for those who are truly seeking a safe place to heal and also show up authentically. If this interests you, then I'm going to invite you to go to Facebook/groups/healing while discovering. I look forward to seeing you in the group. Tony Robbins said, "The quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of the questions you're asking yourself." And that's why I'm inviting you to download my free guide called 5 Powerful Questions to Ask Yourself to help you take back control of your life. In this guide, you will learn how to shift your mood, break negative thought patterns, and identify beliefs and stories so that you can explore the truthfulness of these stories. Go to andreamichelle.com/powerful to download this free guide today.